Okay, so
Are
on this,
you a, let me ask you, are you a player? Are you a musician?
yes, sir. I play bass, a little
Hmm.
bass, and acoustic guitar, and I collect vinyl too.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
I've been going to shows since like the about the late '80s, since about
Hmm.
80, 89, like hardcore punk shows. Of course,
Hmm.
other stuff too, but
Yeah.
so yeah, I dabble, but I'm more like a bedroom player, man. I play for
Hmm.
myself. I got my little Ableton setup and garage,
Yeah.
in my room, and I do my little DJ sets and stuff like that, and it's just really for therapy for myself and to
It's the
do
best. It's the
digging,
best.
in my own collection. And but
Hmm.
my bass playing is nothing on your caliber, or I'm not a professional or anything like that. But
I appreciate that.
it's
Thank you.
like I play by ear. I never took any lessons or anything like that. So, but
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
okay.
Cool.
All right, so cool. On this next episode, I'm honored and delighted to speak with musician Dereck Higgins. Dereck has a deep involvement with the music industry since the '70s, known for his bass playing that showcased a plethora of styles from punk rock to jazz. His musical involvement, including projects such as Norman and the Rockwells, Digital Sex, RAF, Disco Ranch, and Indrima, and recently with the David Nance band.
Yeah.
Dereck is a pillar in the Omaha arts and music scene, ultimately being inducted into the local Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I guess that was a few years ago, correct? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that you come from a musical family. Briefly explain some of the permanent influences or musical values that your dad might have instilled in you at an early age. Him being a musician, or
Sure. Well, to put it into perspective, it wasn't just my father, it was really my whole family. Both sides of my family are musicians and preachers and ministers many generations back. So besides my dad, my mom was also a musician. That's actually how they met. And my grandfather was a minstrel blues singer before he left it and became a minister. And so I just wanted to put that in there. Plus, my
oh,
uncles were also performing musicians, and so I think it's in my DNA pretty deep. The way that music vibrationally and just the way it hits your body, the way it hits you. It's like my parents told me from the time I was in the crib, they'd put on certain music and I just start wiggling and dancing, and it's just gone on from there, if you know what I mean. It's like so the thing that I would try to say about my dad in particular was that his unadulterated natural passion for music was real evident to me, early
Mhm.
on. In many ways I'm very much like my dad.
Awesome.
Yeah, he was a player, but it's like he was almost pro. I mean, he had the chops to be professional, but he started this family and there's all this other stuff.
Mhm.
And that's in a way sort of my story, if I can get it in right quick, about
Sure.
my dad and where I'm
Sure.
at is that kind of like you, Michael, I've seen myself as somewhat of a hobbyist musician because the family was were musicians, but the music didn't make any money. So dad worked these crappy jobs, and both my parents said, well, love music, but get a job. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, his backup, right?
Well, yeah. So my
Mhm.
whole deal growing up was I love music, and I really want to be a musician, but I got to work. So my whole background is in mental health, but the power of music and just the the importance of it, just I can't say enough. I get that from both got that from both of my parents. Okay.
Great. That's cool, man. So the band that he was in was a local Omaha band also? Your
Well, my
dad?
dad, my dad was from Chicago and
Oh.
Kentucky originally, and so he played. I'd have to look it up, but he played with everyone from Stan Kenton. He was in Stan Kenton's band for a
Mhm.
while. Lionel Hampton.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, he grew up with Johnny Griffin, and so there was that connection where he was playing and on the road, which is how he and my mom hooked up. And so when they settled down in Omaha, because my mom's from Omaha,
Mhm.
he mainly played local jazz, R&B, but he also played Tex-Mex, which was interesting, in country.
Hmm.
but he had this connection, um, not just with Chicago, but St. Louis and Kansas City. And so a lot of cats, when they'd be coming through,
Hmm.
would stop by the house, and my dad would play with them. But yeah, he had some local bands. Yeah,
St. Louis, isn't that where Miles Davis is from originally? He's from
yeah,
Missouri, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't remember Miles, but Miles has been to our house when I was a little kid.
Oh my God! Wow.
Well, yeah, it's a true. My brothers
Awesome.
and sisters tell me the story. Now, the story that I remember, which I don't know if you've heard this, but it's true. Another musician who came through, who I remember, that my dad had befriended in Chicago, is John Coltrane.
Oh man, that is
No, it's
insane.
just seriously, it's just like
Wow.
for the longest time, the memory was one that I just kind of kept to myself, and then I finally started asking my brothers, did so and so, did this happen, and was that so and so? And they said, yeah. Well, don't you remember We kept telling you his name isn't Coltrane, it's Coltrane, like a coal train, like down
Hmm.
at the railroad station. Because when we were kids, we lived by the rail yard.
Right.
It's a long story, but yeah, it's my
Cool.
family was just all about music. It's all about music. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm a big Coltrane fan, of course. That Alice Coltrane, of course, Flying Lotus, which is the down that lineage of
Right.
Colt. A lot of people
Right.
don't know that, but
Exactly.
that
Her
Alice
nephew.
Coltrane
Yeah.
is his nephew. Exactly.
Right.
So, what was your first instrument that you played? Was it bass or you started off on guitar?
No, I started off as a child on trumpet.
Oh, okay.
As a little kid, I tried to start professionally following basically my dad. I really had trouble reading music, and so almost like dyslexic. So trumpet didn't work. So then I went to flute. And flute didn't work, and so by sixth grade, I settled on French horn, and I
Hmm.
played French horn and baritone horn through junior high and high school. And then my older brother James was the first one to get a stringed instrument. He got a bass, and of course he told me, "Don't touch that bass,"
Right, right,
And
right.
so, of course, what did I do when he's not home? I would start to teach myself bass. I got my first nylon string guitar at 15 and started to teach myself. The only instrument I took lessons on was drums at about 18, 19. And that's my parents had split up, divorced when I was 14. My dad left. Then he came back when I was about 18, and we started this family band. I played drums, just so
Oh,
that's
okay,
how I
cool.
kind of like mainly play by ear, but I took lessons on drums.
Hmm. So I'm a big documentary person, and I think you're into documentaries too.
Oh, I love
And
them. Yes, yes.
recently, I was watching one on the Pan African Orchestra, which is I'm here in Los Angeles, but they
Oh,
make a
okay.
home here in Leimert Park here in LA, which is like a historical musical area in Los
Mm-hmm.
Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And the band leader described jazz as being like a black rebellion music or punk in a sense. Do you agree
Mm-hmm.
with that sentiment that jazz music being an American, art form, black American art form is sort of like a punk type of rebellion for them back in the day?
Well, I like that. I liked hearing that aspect because I think that perspective regarding almost everything is something to be said for. And so, whereas jazz had a utilitarian purpose in that it was music that allowed these musicians to work, it was like parlor music, for the gentry and whorehouses and stuff, but
Hmm.
also at the same time because it was a genuine expression of the people who they were at the time and the way that they would blend that into just playing what people appreciated. I see the punk aspect of it, if you follow me.
Yeah, exactly.
It was true expression, and it was kind of
Hmm.
like, yeah, we're going to put our own fuck you in here. You might miss it, but it's in there. Yeah.
Right,
All
exactly.
the way back to Louis Armstrong, I can see, actually.
All the way back, right?
For real,
Exactly.
especially with his dope smoking ass, you know what I'm saying? You know, I mean, it's like he always lit up. He didn't care who he played for, and and that act alone to me is pretty punk rock.
Totally. I was telling my girl, I was like, we were looking at the Miles documentary on PBS that they kind of rebroadcast. And I was like, man, all those cats were like heroin,
Hmm.
really, really drug, influenced players back then, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But they played such beautiful music. Even Ray Charles had a history with substance abuse,
Right. Right.
back in the day. So,
It's kind of hard to not kind of not hard to um, have it cross your path. I mean, I've done everything,
Right.
including heroin. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
for me, it was more about the hallucinogens, like the mushrooms and,
Oh, yeah. I still
uh,
like them. I
acid and
still
stuff.
like
Yeah,
mushrooms.
hey man, yeah, nothing wrong with some mushroom tea, right?
That's right. Mellow
Right
out for the
on.
afternoon and just chill. Hell the hell yes.
Did you catch any of that Twin Cities documentary that was on PBS? It was about the Twin Cities hardcore punk scene, and the bands out of that area.
Um,
And is
Go
there
ahead.
differences between the scenes in the Midwest between like Omaha, Minnesota? Like, were there similar bands? I know Husker Du was big out of that
Right.
scene, but
Yeah.
was there notable differences between like the Minnesota scene and the Omaha scene?
You know, all I can give is my personal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in a way we felt a connection.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be from my perspective as a, because I got involved in punk in the 70s, okay, at the end of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel this connection, Omaha, Council Bluffs, Des Moines, Sioux City,
Mm-hmm.
up to St. Paul, Minneapolis, okay? Now, also I have to put in here being, again, a brother that all along I've dealt with being, kind of like the one of the lone blacks.
Right.
So dealing with a definite amount of racism all along the way. And yet the reason why I'm still involved is because the real basis of the scene that I have felt is that we're all outsiders. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was how we all connected. And mostly we banded against the racist thing, which,
Right.
it could have grown here in the Midwest with skinheads, but it didn't. So um, I think, I I think the Omaha scene, if other Omaha punkers heard me speaking, they would agree that there was probably a real tight connection between Omaha, Council Bluffs, and Sioux City, real directly.
Mm-hmm. Sioux City, is that in
Iowa,
Iowa? Sioux City,
Iowa,
Iowa. Okay.
right?
Okay.
Like people like the Vandals ended up there, and
Mm-hmm.
some other bands where it's like people don't quite know. And Rick Agnew has a real strong connection there. That's how I met Rick Agnew of
Mm-hmm.
the Adolescents. He's a good friend of mine now. And so then from there we go to Minneapolis. I remember the Minneapolis bands coming down. Husker Du played
Right.
here a few
Mm-hmm.
times, and just amazing energy. Yeah.
It's just sometimes I think that the Midwest story gets lost. Like I'm from the Baltimore D.C. area,
Mm-hmm.
so of course a lot of people know Discord, Bad Brains, and then
Right.
and over there we would go to Philly, go to New York, and then D.C., Baltimore, and see those.
Mm-hmm.
And then out here in L.A. there's a whole
Yes.
separate lineage that's
Yeah.
what we hear about, but we don't
Right.
hear a lot about Sioux City scene or Minnesota
Yeah.
scene or about your scene. So that's why
Mhm.
the other reason why I wanted to talk to you, because I wanted to talk to someone that's been a part of the scene since the early days and can give me
And I
more
appreciate
insight.
this. And I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
this because have you seen the documentary Afro Punk?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
I've seen Afropunk for sure.
Okay. So the
Yeah,
guy that put it together, I forget his name, but he came through Omaha years ago, screening it. And, when I went to it, watched it, and then we got to talking, and I started talking to him, and he said, "Man, I'm embarrassed as hell. You were supposed to be in the damn movie." I
yeah.
said, "Yeah."
Exactly.
It's like you guys, you
Right.
know, it's like you didn't know. The thing was, my band RAF, which is still going and got started in the 80s, that
Hmm.
wasn't my first punk band, but that's the most notorious. We did get written up in Maximum Rock and Roll at least once, but overall, the like Chicago, see, like
Yeah.
I have a strong music connection to Chicago, but not a punk connection. See what I mean?
Oh, okay. And they
Yeah.
definitely have a hardcore scene in Chicago and Detroit
They
for sure.
do, and
Yeah.
I think that there is a connection, but it doesn't feel like what I was talking about with the Sioux City sort of thing. That
Hmm.
feels more kind of like, yeah, just up the road. Chicago is more, yeah, doesn't
Okay.
quite, yeah, that's how it feels to me. Now maybe some other folks you talk to from Omaha might feel different, but
Hmm.
Chicago's felt more of a overall music connection for me personally than punk.
But you know, when you guys went on tour, you definitely would hit Chicago, Detroit as part of your like your
I never got to play Detroit, my friend. Out of
wow,
all the,
wow.
I've played in over 40, at least 40 of the United States, and damn it, I never got to play
A lot of
Detroit.
great music out there, you know, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, there are some places where it's like, I played New York, but I never got to play CBGB,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things where it's like, that's why I say, honestly,
Mm,
Michael, that in many ways, my music career is late blooming where I'm really being seen kind of
mhm.
now on a professional level in the last few years.
Wow.
It's been because it's like, well, I'm a mental health professional.
Mhm.
I'm a retired licensed mental health professional, 30-year career. And so that's what I was always doing and using my vacations and bartering
Mhm.
time to go on tour and stuff. See what I mean?
Right, yeah. I have a lot of musician friends that are like that are bartenders, physical fitness instructors, but they're hardcore musicians on the side. But you kind of
Yeah,
have to delegate that time, you
yeah,
know, to do your passion. So, like,
yeah.
I love live music, you know, and for you, like, what format do you enjoy performing live the most? The punk, the electronic stuff, or like the David Nance stuff? Like, what gives you more gratification in a live music setting?
I appreciate this question. It's a good one. I like all the formats, but the one that is most visceral, the one that is most energy pumping is the punk.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and
exactly.
and what's interesting, Michael, is that for the first part of my quote unquote career, digital sex was the big thing that I had done back in the 80s.
hmm
Because back in 82, 83, we made a single, then we made an album. We broke up, but we made this album to document it. But we sent it all over the place, hit #1 in France, ended up being the first band from Nebraska to get any mention on MTV. And it
Wow.
it broke the idea locally, seriously, that Nebraska musicians can do this. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
So in the early days, Digital Sex had some amazing shows. We opened up for REM, among other people. Um, it really was very amazing. And then I'm also in the band Sun Ambulance. They were on the
Mm.
Saddle Creek Records label.
And I
I
can get
toured.
the RAF and the Indrima on vinyl. Can I purchase that still on your Bandcamp?
The RAF is not on vinyl. We only
Oh,
made a cassette, which is a collector's item, but the RAF is on my Bandcamp, so you can download it and
okay.
pay whatever you want.
Yeah.
Indrima is also a collector's item and sold out,
Oh.
but you can find it like on eBay or like in Europe, okay?
Okay.
But Indrima, before COVID hit, we were recording our new album, so that's kind of like waiting to get done. I kind of like follow the band leader's lead on that. But to just finish up your question, the in the long run, I've had the most amazing experiences overall playing punk rock shows.
Oh, cool.
Just incredible energy, people, moments where the band becomes one, where the music is like, well, we don't even know what happened, but it's like the whole place was like a fucking spaceship, you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
everyone just takes off.
Right, right, yeah. That
You know what I'm talking
crowd,
about?
that crowd interaction for sure, you know, definitely, man.
Yeah.
And I'm missing it. I hope we were able to go to shows again within the next couple years
I
because
sure hope so
I
too.
totally miss it, you know.
So
So
I'm curious. Tell me about maybe some great shows you've been to, or anything coming to mind where for you.
there's a lot, dude. I mean, shoo, you know, I mean, going back, you know, I could like the new Titans on the block when it was like Slayer, Megadeth, and that was when Alice in Chains first came out. So like the metalheads weren't really digging Alice in Chains,
Right,
but
right.
they
When I
were a
saw them, they
great
weren't.
band.
Yeah, yeah,
You
they
know,
were.
on that facelift tour, that first tour, that was like a memorable show.
Yeah,
The
I saw
early
that.
Palooza lineups were great. You know,
Yeah,
first
I saw
Palooza
them.
was Body Count, James
Yeah,
Addiction.
that
That
was
was Living
amazing.
Color,
Yeah,
amazing.
saw it. Yeah,
I was
yeah.
talking to Orlando about seeing the Boredoms at Palooza. That
I
lineup was
wish,
great.
boy, that would have
You
been
know,
great.
That was insane.
No doubt.
Just here recently, I saw before COVID, I saw Mr. Bungle. And they had a lineup with Dave Lombardo from Slayer and Scott
Mhm.
Ian and Mike Patton on vocals. Mike Patton is like one of my favorite vocalists. Even
Awesome.
his like Italian stuff. It's just like
Yeah.
I love Mike Patton. That was a
Awesome.
great show. It was the Melvins and Mr. Bungle. But
Excellent. Excellent.
we'd be here all day if I keep going with that. But
Oh, I love it though.
yeah.
Well, do you know this Omaha connection with Mike Patton?
No, I
Um,
don't. I don't know it. What's the
well,
connection with Omaha?
Faith No More, his band Faith No More.
I thought they were from the Bay Area though. They're from San Francisco.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
Mike Patton.
Yeah, Mike Patton. Right, right, right.
Well, their tour manager is my friend Tim Moss, originally from Omaha.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Cool,
yeah, he was
man.
in bands here in Omaha. Ritual Device was the one that he got going before he left. And then I
Mhm.
don't know if you've ever heard of the band Men of Porn. Men of Porn.
No, I have not heard them. No,
Yeah, Tim
no.
Moss. That's Faith No More's tour manager. He's a good friend with Melvin's too. Dale and those guys.
Oh, okay. Cool,
Yeah, when they
cool.
come through, I always say, yeah, hey, say hey to Tim. Oh, you know Tim? I say, yeah. So yeah, we have this connection.
So I know you're a big fan of Ryuichi Sakamoto. Did you ever live
Big
in
time.
Japan or collaborate with him at all?
I
Or
tried to. I just got to go to Japan for a summer in 1994
uh-huh.
through a connection with a college here locally, some Japanese friends that I hooked up with, and they went over and got jobs in broadcasting and hired me to start their library music collection. You know about library music?
Wow. No, can you elaborate a little bit about the library
Yes,
music?
this is something that
Are you talking about the music that they typically have in libraries, like the catalogs they have in
no
libraries?
music that
Oh,
no music that's made like for background, for commercials, for
oh,
TV, for
okay.
movies that
Gotcha.
professional musicians will make on the side. Some musicians do it for a profession,
Mm-hmm.
and these are like professional collections that broadcasters and different entities buy to use. And
Oh, okay.
so they had the money in the background to hire me personally
Mm.
to write, because they had caught on to what I did here in Omaha and became good friends. It was a hell of an experience. So yeah, I got to work. And while I was in Japan, I entered a competition, a songwriting competition that was judged by Sakamoto. I
Oh
did,
man.
I didn't win, but he got to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I
Cool.
did finally get to see Sakamoto, and I tried to get backstage at the Hollywood Bowl, but I had to leave. But I found out how to get backstage, but I had to leave.
Oh, so you're
So
out here in LA for that. Wow.
yeah, 2 years
Oh,
ago.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're doing your like ambient electronic work, which is I think you're doing a lot of that recently, what is your particular production method when you're making those records? Are you doing like synthesizer work first, or drum machine, or are you what's the method to the madness when you're making those records?
Well, it really does kind of depend. Now, my first ambient albums, because I have two ambient albums, Sonospheres and
Uh-huh.
Sonospheres 2, and those again are sold out, but you can find them. I made those a few years back before I had a sampler. And so what I did with those was literally like what DJs do with taking chunks of music, and like repeating and then building like building blocks,
Mm.
but without the convenience of a sampler. So the ambient pieces can come from working with samples. It can come from me working on the keyboard. I don't have a usual approach.
Are you looping guitar and bass stuff, like your own guitar and bass in some ways, or
Sometimes I do.
uh-huh.
More what I do is field recordings that I will sample sounds, okay,
Oh, nice.
and then
Mm.
use that. Um, I was just talking about this because I just signed a minor deal with a small record label, FPE Records, and
Mhm.
some people ask me, why I don't put live instruments with the most recent stuff that I've been doing, which is all MIDI based on keyboard.
Mhm.
And the thing is that I will do that here at home. I'll add guitar, real guitar and bass and stuff. But ultimately, I really like what I'm doing in this digital domain. So I kind of have these different paths.
Mm.
I recently put some stuff online where I was doing guitar improvisations, and that's totally separate from the keyboard stuff. So,
Mm. Cool.
yeah, it's just kind of like I would imagine it is for you, whatever strikes your fancy at the moment, eh?
Whatever is like, yeah, influencing me, or because sometimes it takes me a while to even get to want to pick up the bass. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's
Right.
I have more of a vocal background, so I was in like in a lot
Okay.
of chorales as a youngster and in college and stuff. So I
Okay.
trust my vocals. I'm more confident in my vocals than I am in my bass playing.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm doing this thing called Top Four, and I know you're into like psych and krautrock groups. Give me
Yeah.
a few psych or krautrock groups that influence like your playing, or like that you love, just period.
Well, I think you're gonna hear the main ones right
Yeah,
away. I mean,
exactly.
it's like, so let me put it in perspective. Um, when the Beatles played on Ed Sullivan, I was I think maybe 7 or 8 years old. And at the time, in the 60s, and in that's all that we were pretty poor, TV was all we had. Okay.
Mm,
So when the moment of the Beatles, it was an amazing psychic moment that I and my sisters, we all felt, we just screamed like the kids on the TV. We don't even know why we felt it. This is important. Okay. So started, even though I was really into music before the Beatles, starting with Little Richard and Chuck Berry, they just blew my mind as a little boy. Okay.
hmm.
But the Beatles, there was something that just unlocked something. Okay. So then it was the British invasion that caught my fancy, which led to psychedelia. Okay. You see what I'm
Hmm.
saying?
Right,
Okay.
right, right.
So,
So you're
I
talking like
mean,
Beatles, Revolver, like those albums that kind of like were
oh, yeah,
yeah,
actually, for
yeah.
me, like Rubber Soul was the one,
Rubber
actually.
Soul, yeah, okay,
Even before
yeah.
Revolver, okay, people talk about Revolver, but no, the one for me, and I think for a lot of kids who were living it daily, Rubber Soul was the mind blower first, then Revolver, okay?
Hmm.
But when you talk about some of the most incredible bands that have had a major influence on me, we must start with the Beatles. Then we got to talk about Jimi Hendrix. We have to talk about Arthur Lee's Love. Then okay,
Wow.
seriously,
Well,
okay,
okay, so
now
you're really, yeah, okay, okay. Go ahead.
you want to know the truth, okay?
Yeah,
I mean, I
definitely.
I could talk for days now,
No,
okay?
I know you can, man.
Okay. See, we haven't even got to the crowd rock yet.
Yeah,
See,
we haven't even gotten there. Yeah, I know, man. But,
no,
I'm
no.
listening.
See,
But go ahead. Go ahead.
this
Go
is
ahead.
really important because
Yeah, you have to go to the root of it all, right? You have to.
yes,
Right.
yes, because I
Exactly.
found out about noise and sound exploration before I heard krautrock. As a kid, my older brother, through checking records out from the library, we
Hmm.
got turned on to Karl-Heinz Stockhausen and Luciano Berio and Steve Reich and Igor Stravinsky as
Mm.
kids. Okay. So
Hmm.
by the time I got to krautrock, I was ready. Okay. But even before that, when I first heard the MC5 and saw Iggy back in the 60s in Detroit, it's just like that blew my mind. That's what I thought. That's where punk starts with me.
Right.
Okay, is
Yeah.
MC5 and Iggy. That literally. So in high school, while I'm going through that phase, then I got turned on to Pink Floyd and Frank Zappa. In high school, I met these Air Force brats, these kids who lived all over the world because of their dad being in the Air Force in the SAC Air Base. So they end up in the same high school as me. And I would take records to school like you would, and
Hmm.
one day I had a Frank Zappa and a Uriah Heep, and it caught this kid's attention. And then he said, "Well, you ever heard of Can? You ever heard of Gong?" I said, "No. What the fuck is that?"
Hmm.
So that's where that started. Okay.
I got you, because they were
Now, one,
exposed to more because they were military
they
brats.
brought those, yeah, they had the records. So I
Mm.
started hanging out with them. And that's where I first heard Faust, Gong, Embryo,
Oh yeah,
and
embryo. Wow.
and the ECM label. That's where I first got turned on to ECM. ECM is very important to me as well.
Mm.
So that's just part of the story. And then we have, like I said, there's the whole other current of rock and metal and hard rock. I was huge into Deep Purple,
Hmm.
when they first came out with Hush, and then Steppenwolf with Born to Be Wild. It was like when those things happened, it's like I was thinking, wow, this is the future. I mean, it's like all that music is very important to me.
Yeah, what's funny, I found out about Embryo through Mad Lib because he's an avid collector and vinyl
Yeah,
digger.
yeah.
And he was talking about Embryo, and I picked up some of their records. They're absolutely incredible, man.
Totally. Talk about world music before world music.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like Embryo a lot. Yeah. So
Mhm,
like I'm a big Living Color Fishbone 24/7 Spies fan, of course the
mhm.
Bad Brains.
Yes.
And do you have any involvement with the Black Rock Coalition or have you ever had any back and forth with that
Well,
at
just with
all?
some of the people meeting them, but as a organization, actually no.
Uh-huh.
Um, but historically, um, I was a member of the Black Panther Party.
You know what? Orlando mentioned that, and I really had no idea that you were a member or that there was even a division in Omaha.
Well, I mean,
So
it's very controversial. I was a teenager. They wouldn't
wow.
even allow the city charter, because groups have to register. They would not allow the Black Panthers to call themselves the Black Panthers in Nebraska. So we had to call it the Nebraska Coalition for Colored Folks. Some bullshit like that. But
Oh,
it was
okay.
my older sister that got me involved. I have a whole other story. There's a In the Library of Congress, you can look me up. There's a file. The fucking Secret Service and FBI followed us, tapped the phone. It got ridiculous, Michael.
So we're
And it's
talking
on
like
top.
68, 68, 69.
Yes, my friend, 68, 69, 70 was bullshit. Wasting taxpayer money on me, a juvenile, being followed by the Secret Service when I go to the damn store to buy some milk for my mom and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And then I've been involved in some shakedowns with the police, okay, you know, at
Hmm.
the headquarters. And this whole deal where David David Rice and Ed Poindexter, who are in prison for life for supposedly blowing up that cop. I was there that day. They didn't do it. I tried to go to court. I got banned from the courthouse. We wanted to
Hmm.
testify. Man, I got some deep. Okay. So you want to
Right.
know about blackness? Okay. Let's go back to civil rights.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because I was kind of hesitant to bring that question up about the Black Panthers, but I'm glad you brought it up first
Man, I
because
don't, I,
because I thought that was really interesting when he told me that. I was like, wow,
yeah,
yeah.
I've been harassed and all sorts of things because of it. But at this point, it's like I have really nothing to lose to tell my story. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
There was a
Yeah.
time when I was very careful about what I would say, and there's still other things I know about that I'm careful about what I say.
Hmm.
But no, I'm very proud of that. Um, when it comes to the Black Rock Coalition, I'm just happy to have met a few of the musicians. I mean, I respect and love them all. Um, but Doug Wimbish, I've
Yeah,
met
the
him.
bass player, yeah, Vernon
But
Reed, yeah,
right,
Jimmy
so I've met,
Hazel.
yeah, I've got to meet and talk to some folks. The guy that replaced HR for a while in Bad Brains, Ross Joseph, you know
Yeah, he
him?
was on that Rise album, right? The one that
Yeah,
came out
yeah,
without HR. Yeah, I know what you're
yeah,
talking about. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
When
yeah.
he came through recently in the last few years with some band I forget, but we bonded, and so we're still friends to this day. We're
Yeah.
still in touch.
I would like to
So,
get more of that Tach Kid stuff. Doug, wasn't that Doug Wimbish's
oh man, that shit
project?
that's dope. I got the tack head. I
You got
got
it
it
on
all, man.
vinyl? You got it
Yes,
on
man.
vinyl?
Yeah,
Oh man.
yeah, I
Yeah,
do. Get
yeah,
that
yeah.
shit. It's funky.
You ever
It's
listen to that group Harriet Tubman?
Now that's
They're like
one that
they're a jazz outfit. Yeah.
right now I have not gotten into it deeply. So you're saying give it another listen, eh?
Yeah, you should. You should.
Okay,
Definitely. You should, man.
okay, I will.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the whole thing with Adult Swim and the Hicks Corner. How did that all come about, and is it ever going to
Very.
come back?
We hope so. We hope so. But COVID killed it. COVID is what killed the Higgs Corner thing. That
Hmm.
all is directly associated with Saddle Creek Records in Dreama. Bright Eyes, you know who Bright Eyes is. Bright Eyes is
Yeah,
Hanover.
I've heard that before. Yes,
The
yes.
faint, the faints. Okay.
Hmm.
Saddle Creek Records was the big indie success story out of Nebraska in the 90s as far as the record label.
Hmm.
Okay. So here's the deal is there became this connection between the scene in Athens, Georgia, of all
Mm.
places, Athens and Atlanta.
That's where REM is from, Athens, Georgia.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mm.
And the band Azure Ray and the Black Lips.
Oh, I know the Black Lips. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they're distant friends of mine. Okay,
Oh, okay.
yeah, through this somehow, well, not somehow, but because of Bright Eyes' success, people from Georgia were drawn to Omaha, and it created a pretty fertile indie scene here locally. That's how I met the people that led to Adult Swim, is what I'm trying to express.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
But it was a musical connection because of the band Tilly and the Wall and The Faint. Okay. And some people who were recording with them that I became good friends with started recording with. And then they ended up moving back to Georgia. They got jobs with Adult Swim. But while we were here and we were hanging out at my house a lot and getting high and talking about stuff, my
Is that
friends,
is that their media headquarters in Athens, Georgia for
yeah,
Adult Swim? Okay.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
in
Okay.
Atlanta, in Atlanta,
Oh, in Atlanta. Okay.
in Atlanta.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Right. So my friends who ended up getting the job producing and directing at Adult Swim, they got the first idea for the show here at my house years earlier, where, see, one of the guys is also a film director, Nick Fackler. He's not a big name yet. It still may happen, but what's his name? Andrew. There's another director from Nebraska who's really well known.
Hmm.
Anyway, my friends were moving in that direction. They said, "Well, we're going to go to Adult Swim. We're going to go to MTV with our ideas." And at the time, I just thought it was talk. And then the next thing you know, they actually go and they make these things happen. And my friends got the job at Adult Swim, and they never forgot me and this whole idea of what we used to do at my house, which is have these listening parties with all these records, and we get high and
Hmm.
go through history. And
Hmm.
that's how the idea of Higgs Corner came, because that's what we would do is, it's like hang and we would, go through. Um, but the first way that it started was that they got this show going called Stupid Morning Bullshit.
Oh, okay.
That was my friend David Matisiak's show that he got going. And then as what he first proposed to me was, can we get you to do a minute spot for the show every Friday called Old Music Friday? Because the show was a mock-up of morning news talk shows, okay?
Hmm.
And so then they would have every Friday, well, here's Higgs with the old music, because they would always talk about new music, in
Hmm.
the show. Besides news, they would always do the new music spots with these young announcers. And so then it started with that, and then my spot got really popular, which
Oh,
led to them floating the idea of giving me my whole show.
nice.
So
Yeah.
that's where the Higgs Corner thing came from. And we were working towards me still getting a whole show, and then COVID hit. And my folks, they're on furlough or whatever, it's like,
Hmm.
I hope
Right.
they still have jobs. You know what I mean?
So eventually, maybe one day it'll come back. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So, is there any advice you would give a young producer or bass player, like just getting started with their craft? Like any starting advice you would give them, like as far as someone like a kid, like a teenager, just getting starting in music, like any
Well,
elder statesman advice?
well, I don't teach, but I've done a lot of mentoring.
Mm,
So my message is real. I have a lot of messages, but the line messages I have for people is attempt to trust your inner gut. Attempt to be more open to just following what it is that's got you on this going in the first place. So, and I do mean it like that. So if, for example, if maybe you saw Rihanna, or you saw maybe Cardi B as a
Mhm.
kid, and you just saw that and said, I want to be that, I'm going to encourage you to learn about that. But if your interest is in the art, if your interest is in expression and true expression, I want to encourage that. That's what
Mhm.
I encourage. I also encourage kids to be brave against the trends, be yourself. It's not easy, but don't be a follower,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I apply that to the arts in particular. Just because everybody over here is doing this, if you're not feeling it, then do your thing. um I encourage people to explore themselves. It's like I said, I didn't go to school, I didn't take lessons on guitar or bass.
Mhm.
The reason why I can play as well as I can, and I still have a lot more to do, it's because I want to. And I want to find out. See, like when I was a kid, certain older musicians would tell me, "Well, you got to learn how to read. You can't just do that."
Mm, mhm.
And I told them, and I say, "Well, you're right, but at the same time, I just want to play, and I know
Right.
I can do it." And I did it. I learned how from with my ears. A lot of music, you play with ear, right?
Right, right, exactly. I just listen
Right,
to stuff and I could regurgitate it after
right,
hearing it.
right.
But
So I'm not one of those people that says, well, you have to do steps A, B, C, D, and E to get to F. Follow your inner voice is what I say.
mhm. Yeah. So just like one or two more here, man. Like
I
when I
don't mind.
travel, I like to buy records when I travel. Like I just got back from Philadelphia, the East Coast, and wherever I go, if I go to San Francisco, I buy records. Do
Mhm.
you buy records on the road at all, or whenever
Yes,
you make
yes,
it out of Omaha? Do you
yes. I
feel
couldn't
that's
have
a
got.
different experience?
Yes, totally. There's a lot of records here that I got all over the world because I can't get them in Omaha.
Mm,
So whenever I tour, when I was in Japan, this blew my mind. Of course, then I realized all the Japanese students in Omaha. When I started going through used records in Japan, I saw some of my records in the used section.
oh wow.
Well, where when I was a kid, I would put my name inside here in the inner lip, and I saw some records over there. It's like, I remember selling that, and they say they were in Japan. Okay, so just a quick story. Okay, so yeah,
Mm,
everywhere I go, all over the world, then for years now, people send me stuff, and it's just gotten really nice. People send me music from all over the world. Um,
mm.
I get a lot of stuff directly from the artists now. Um, Porcupine Tree, that band.
Yeah, I know you've been showing a lot of Porcupine Tree, and actually influenced me to buy one of their records, and I like them, man. But they're
They
one of
growing.
those groups where you're gonna have to take time with their discography to get to know who they
Yeah,
are. You know what I mean? They're not like you're not gonna be into it after one
no,
spin. You got to
no, they
take time with
growing.
that band,
Yeah,
and
they grow on you.
I
But no, I
appreciate
haven't.
that band though. Them and
That,
the also Opeth, because
oh,
those guys, they've made a lot of big moves, like transitions over the years.
yeah,
Before they were doing like the guttural death
right,
metal stuff, and now it's like
right.
really, really more
Real prog.
condensed, more
Yeah,
prog, and
yeah,
they've grown a lot over the years.
they
Opeth,
have. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So who are you listening to right now?
Who am I listening to? This band Salt out of the UK.
Yeah,
They're really, really like as far as 2020,
yeah.
they're like for me probably close to number one. Salt.
Cool, cool. I like them. I
Yeah,
like them. Yeah.
Salt, and there's this like heavy metal prog band that I've been listening to that kind of reminds me of Animals as Leaders. Do you know Animals as Leaders?
Yes, yes, yes. I tried to meet.
Tosin Abasi.
Yeah, I tried to meet him. Yeah, I tried to meet him. They did the rock star thing to me. That was bullshit.
Oh, okay. So have you seen
But
them
but I
live?
love them. Excuse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Have you seen
yeah.
them? Yeah, they're incredible, man. Tosin is like he's like the new the new up and comer guitar player virtuoso, in
Yeah,
my opinion, you know.
check this out, Michael. Not only did I go to the show, but I knew someone at the show who had members of his band play on his record, and neither one of us could get backstage.
Wow.
It was some bullshit. It was some bullshit. I'm not saying it was Tozen. I'm blaming management. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
But
got
yeah,
you.
but you were saying another band like them.
Yeah, this band, they're called Canvas Solaris. So
Okay. I
Canvas Solaris,
Yes,
yeah.
I will listen to them more closely. I've seen the name
Yeah.
because I like heavy music quite a bit. Now,
Mhm.
what about Pain of Salvation?
I haven't heard.
Oh my goodness, really? Now I got to ask you about one more. Hold on, let me look them up.
Okay, Pain of Salvation. Wow.
Yeah, really? This Car Bomb, Car Bomb, Car Bomb.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, they're kind of like hardcore
Like
indie.
Meshuggah, like
Yeah,
Meshuggah.
yeah, they're good. Yeah, Carbomb is good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, before, because there's so much to mention, before I let you go, the whole Jazz is Dead movement that's happening out here with Adrian Young and Kamasi, and
Hmm.
I know you know Kamasi, but
Yeah,
that
yeah,
all that whole movement is just incredible. You need to check
yeah.
that out because
Right with Terrence.
yeah, Terrence Monson, and they're going
Well,
back
his
with like,
dad. Yeah, his
huh?
dad is my friend. His dad is my friend.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Curly Martin. He lives here in Omaha. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, we were gonna play together, and it wasn't compatible, but we're good friends.
Man, that is awesome. But yeah,
Yeah.
the whole Jazz is Dead. Like we saw them live here in LA with the Midnight Hour, and
Hmm.
the show we went to was Lonnie Liston Smith, which was really really incredible because
Hmm.
we might be able to see him again. You know, he's in his
Exactly.
80s. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So
He's one of the real deals, originals.
absolutely, bro. But yeah,
Yeah,
man, it's been great talking to you, man. And if you're ever in LA, hit me on the messenger. You
I
know, I'll
will.
meet you for a beer or go see someone play
I
or
will.
whatever.
I will.
And
I'd love that. My sisters and my older brother live there. My younger sister, for years, worked for Disney,
oh, okay. So they're
and
out here.
then right now, do you know about the famous black animator Floyd Norman, first animator to work for Walt Disney?
No, not at all. Oh my God.
They're out there in LA. There's a documentary about Floyd Norman called An Animated Life.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first black man to work as an animator for Disney. He's in
Mm-hmm.
his 80s now. That's my sister's husband. That's my brother-in-law. They're out there in
Wow.
LA. They're out there in
Wow.
LA. Well, actually, they're in Pasadena. So yeah, when this shit gets free, that's who I want to come out and see. So that would be my reason to get a hold of you.
Totally, man. And we'll catch a show because I'm always going to shows. So
Yeah, me
it
too.
was great, man. I appreciate you, bro, and good
Thank
luck to
you.
you, man. Happy
Thank you.
holidays to your family, also. Happy
Thank
holidays.
you, Michael. Take care now.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.